Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to speak to you about one of the most liberating realizations you can ever embrace. No one cares as much as you think they do. At first, this sounds harsh, maybe even lonely. But in reality, it is one of the most freeing truths in life. When you stop living to please others, when you stop fearing their opinions, and when you accept that the world is too busy to constantly judge you, everything changes. You reclaim your power. The Stoics, ancient philosophers who mastered the art of resilience, left us with timeless lessons. Let me share with you 7 Stoic truths that will transform your life when you accept that no one cares as much as you think they do. 1. People are too busy with their own lives. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Isn't that the truth? Everyone is wrapped in their own struggles, their own insecurities, their own battles. They don't sit around analyzing your mistakes. When you realize this, you stop performing for others and start living for yourself. 2. Freedom comes from indifference to opinions. Epictetus taught us that we cannot control what others think, but only how we respond. The moment you let go of needing approval, you are free. Opinions are not chains unless you allow them to bind you. 3. Suffering is magnified by worrying about judgment. Half of your pain comes not from events themselves, but from imagining what others will think about those events. The Stoics remind us suffering is choice. When you stop fearing the whispers of others, you silence unnecessary suffering. 4. The present moment is all you. Own Seneca taught that life is wasted when we live for tomorrow or for other people's praise. The only moment that belongs to you is now. When you stop caring about what others think of yesterday's failure or tomorrow's risks, you live fully today. 5. Control is an illusion outside of yourself. The Stoic principle of dichotomy of control teaches that the only things in your power are your actions, your words, and your mindset. Everything else, opinions, gossip, judgment, belongs to others. And if it belongs to others, why waste your energy trying to control it? 6. Peace is found in self-mastery, not recognition. True freedom is not applause. It is mastery over your mind. When you realize that chasing validation makes you a slave, you turn inward, you seek discipline, courage, and virtue. That is where peace lives. 7. Death reminds us that opinions are nothing. Memento mori, the Stoic reminder of death, teaches us that life is short. One day, none of the opinions, none of the gossip, none of the criticism will matter. The only thing that will remain is how you lived, how you loved, and how you grew. So, when you accept that no one really cares as much as you believe, you are free. Free to take risks, free to fail, free to reinvent yourself, free to chase your dreams without apology. My friends, remember this: the crowd is too distracted to watch your every move. So why not live boldly? Why not live authentically? Why not live as if today is your only day? The Stoics showed us the way. Now it is up to you to walk it. Thank you. Most of us grow up believing that the world is constantly watching, constantly judging, and constantly waiting for us to make a mistake. That belief is what keeps so many people paralyzed, afraid to take risks, or too cautious to live boldly. But the truth is far simpler and far more liberating. People are far too busy with their own lives to focus on yours. Think about it. Every single person you meet is caught up in their own challenges, their own insecurities, their own dreams, and their own fears. They don't have the time or energy to examine every little detail of your life. Even if it sometimes feels that way, this realization is powerful because it removes the imaginary spotlight you think is always shining on you. When you understand that most people are focused on themselves, you can finally stop performing for others and start living for yourself. The small mistakes you obsess over, the moments of embarrassment you replay in your head, are forgotten by others almost instantly because their attention quickly returns to their own concerns. That means you have far more freedom than you think. You can take a chance, try something new, or pursue a dream without worrying about how you'll be perceived. Even if someone notices, their thoughts will pass just as quickly as they came. The Stoics remind us that this truth is not a reason to feel unimportant, but a reason to feel free. It is an invitation to stop living under the weight of imagined judgment and to embrace authenticity. Once you internalize that no one cares as much as you believe, you open the door to growth, courage, and genuine self-expression, because you are finally living for yourself, not the crowd. True freedom begins the moment you release yourself from the prison of other people's opinions. For much of life, we are conditioned to seek approval from family, friends, colleagues, and even strangers. We measure our worth by applause, validation, or recognition, and when those are absent, we feel small. But the Stoics remind us that this dependence is a chain, and it keeps us bound. Epictetus taught that while we cannot control what others say or think, we can control our response. This is the essence of freedom, the ability to live in alignment with your values without being swayed by the ever-changing winds of opinion. When you chase approval, you surrender your peace because you are building your life on unstable ground. One day, you might be praised. The next day, You might be criticized. If your sense of worth depends on that, you will rise and fall endlessly, never truly at rest. But when you no longer care for approval, when you measure yourself by your own principles rather than by applause, you become unshakable. Imagine how much courage you would gain if the fear of judgment disappeared. How many risks would you take? How boldly would you live? Freedom is not found in being liked by everyone. It is found in no longer needing to be liked. Opinions are like passing clouds. They form, they shift, and they dissolve. They are never permanent, and they are never yours to control. When you stop living as a hostage to approval, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your soul. You begin to live authentically, in harmony with your deeper purpose. That is real freedom, not applause, not recognition, but the power to stand tall regardless of who notices. Suffering in life is often not caused by events themselves, but by the way we interpret them and the fear of how others will perceive them. A failure, for example, is only a setback until you begin to imagine the voices of critics, the laughter of doubters, or the judgment of people who may not even be paying attention. This mental weight turns a single difficulty into a mountain of unnecessary pain. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that our thoughts, not external circumstances, are the true source of most of our suffering. When you constantly worry about how others see you, you multiply your pain because you are living through both the challenge itself and the imagined criticism that follows it. But if you can learn to silence that noise, to focus only on what is in your control, the burden becomes lighter. Think of how many times you held yourself back from trying something new, not because you weren't capable, but because you feared embarrassment. That fear is suffering before anything has even happened. The truth is, people rarely think about your mistakes for more than a fleeting moment. They are too busy with their own lives. By carrying their imagined opinions in your mind, you are punishing yourself for no reason. To be free from this is to recognize that judgment is powerless unless you give it power. The next time you face failure, see it for what it is, a lesson, an experience, a stepping stone forward, not a permanent stain in the eyes of the world. When you stop worrying about being judged, you stop doubling your suffering. You allow yourself to feel the challenge, learn from it, and move forward with dignity and strength. The present moment is the only piece of time that truly belongs to you. Yet most people give it away by dwelling on past mistakes or worrying about future opinions. We replay old failures in our minds, wishing we could rewrite them, or we spend endless energy imagining how others might our choices tomorrow. In both cases, we rob ourselves of the only reality we actually possess right now. The Stoics reminded us that the past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the present is all we can touch. When you realize this, the fear of criticism loses its grip, because judgment exists either in memories or in imagined possibilities, never in the present itself. Think of how much life is wasted when we let our thoughts drift into the what-ifs of other people's reactions. You might stop yourself from speaking up, chasing a dream, or living authentically because of a shadow that doesn't even exist. The present is where courage lives, where action happens, and where growth takes place. By grounding yourself in this moment, you anchor yourself to reality instead of illusion. What people said yesterday is irrelevant, and what they may say tomorrow cannot be controlled. What you do right now, however, is in your hands. When you live fully in the present, you are no longer a prisoner to fear. You discover freedom, clarity, and peace. This is why the Stoics trained themselves to focus only on what is here and now, because that is where life happens. Once you understand that the present is all you own, you begin to live boldly, speak freely, and act without hesitation. And in doing so, you escape the invisible chains of imagined judgment and step into authentic living. One of the most empowering lessons the Stoics gave us is the dichotomy of control, the clear line between what is within our power and what is not. Your thoughts, your actions are your choices, and your mindset, these are yours to command. But the opinions of others, the gossip they spread, or the judgments they make belong entirely to them. Yet so often we waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable. We try to make everyone like us, to shape how others see us, or to silence every critic. This pursuit is endless and exhausting because it is impossible. The moment you accept that external judgments are beyond your control, a heavy burden falls away. You realize that your energy is better spent where it matters, on your own growth, discipline, and integrity. People will always have something to say. Whether you succeed or fail, whether you stay quiet or speak boldly, if you live by their voices, you will forever be pulled in different directions, never finding peace. But when you focus on what belongs to you, your actions, your attitude, your character, you become grounded and unshakable. Think of it like sailing a ship. You cannot control the winds or the waves, but you can control the strength of your sails and the direction of your rudder. In life, the winds are other people's opinions, unpredictable and ever changing. If you fight them, you will be exhausted. But if you master yourself, you can navigate through anything. The Stoics remind us that freedom comes from drawing this line and living within it. When you stop trying to control what belongs to others and focus instead on mastering yourself, you reclaim your strength, your time, and your peace. Life is brief, and the Stoics often reminded themselves of this truth with the phrase memento mori, remember that you will die. At first, this sounds dark, but in reality, it is a call to live fully and freely. When you keep the reality of death in mind, you begin to see how small and meaningless the opinions of others truly are. The criticisms that once felt heavy, the gossip that once stung, the doubts that once held you back, all of it fades into nothing when placed against the shortness of life. None of those judgments will matter in the end. What will matter is not how many people approved of you, but how honestly you lived, how much courage you showed, and how deeply you stayed true to your values. Death strips away illusions, and among the greatest illusions is the belief that recognition equals meaning. Recognition fades, applause dies down, and names are forgotten. But the impact you make through your choices, your actions, and your character, those are the things that echo beyond you. When you accept this, you stop wasting precious years trying to manage how others see you. You stop playing small to fit in or silencing yourself to avoid criticism. Instead, you start living with urgency, with authenticity, and with gratitude for each day. Death is not a reason to despair, it is a reason to be bold. It is a reminder that time is too valuable to be wasted on fear of judgment. When you live with this perspective, you walk lighter, freer, and braver. And in doing so, you honor life itself